Rosalind, in my experience, when NHRIs get together, there's one topic guaranteed to come up, and that's about independence. It's how do we achieve it, how do we be seen to achieve it by others, and how do we protect our independence when it's challenged. So why do you think it's such an important thing for NHRIs and such a hot topic?
Well, I think independence is absolutely critical to the role and responsibility of the National Human Rights Institution. It's the thing that enables us to have a very special place at the national level, where we're clearly seen not to be biased, whether with government, opposition, or indeed civil society organisations. And at the international level, we're relied on to provide authoritative, quality advice that the international human rights mechanisms can draw on. So the independence is crucial. They don't want us to be another voice for government or another voice for civil society organisations.
And why do you think it's such a hot topic for us as NHRIs?
Well, because it's really difficult to achieve, because all of us come to positions in national human rights institutions with experience behind us. Many of us have been very active on human rights, in my case on human rights and trade unions, and I was a member of a political party, and people associate you with those things. And so, to use my own example, when I was first appointed, I was attacked as not being objective and neutral. To acknowledge the importance of independence, I resigned my membership from the political party I was involved in, and I didn't even go to election parties or any activity associated with the party throughout my 10 years in office. Of course, people still know that's your background, but then you demonstrate through how you assess situations, how you report, what you do, that you are indeed independent and not favouring one perspective or another. I think that nationally, but around the world, the role of national human rights institutions and particularly that independence is misunderstood. And so many of us, and I know from talking with other colleagues and so on, have had the experience of officials saying, how dare you challenge government policy, how dare you challenge a piece of legislation. But that is one of the unique functions of national human rights institutions. Even ombudsmen without a human rights mandate, they act within the national law. But the role of a national institution is to be able to say these laws, policies and practice don't meet international standards.
And that's really true, and I remember more than one occasion when you were confronted by ministers who were, challenging you on not supporting the government's line on the particular matter.
I myself was quite shocked the first time because it was so aggressive. A subsequent Minister of Justice said to us that he wanted to amend the Human Rights Act because he was sick of his cabinet colleagues complaining to him about what the Human Rights Commission was doing. And but the importance of that independence, I think, is demonstrated by the fact that I was appointed by one government, but my term continued into a second government. And at the time that the new minister was appointed, the Minister of Justice, and I met with him, he said, I might not agree with everything you do, Ms. Noonan, but you've proven your independence and I want you to keep doing it. It's important for us that we hear in the same way that the previous government heard from you.
And bottom line, I think we need to acknowledge that we'll never get it right all the time in everyone's eyes. But what we can do, in my view, is we can structure our practice and our policies to best set ourselves up for independence, and that way, when we are criticised, and we always will be, we can defend ourselves. And to help us with this, I think the APF manual on NHRIs has got a really good summary of the different dimensions of independence for NHRIs. They talk about independence being legal, provided by the state, operational, and that the NHRI chooses its own priorities and activities. They talk about independence in policy, where NHRIs decide for themselves what the human rights issues are. financial independence in terms of the way the NHRI chooses to spend its money, whatever the source of that income, and also, really importantly, reflected in its membership in the way that appointments are both made and terminated. So what about situations where the legal provisions of the state are inadequate? That's not something in the control of NHRIs.
No, but national human rights institutions have a responsibility to advocate to their governments for the strengthening of their legislation to make independence more explicit and with legal guarantees. And we've had some really good examples of where that's happened as a result of the global National Human Rights Institution organisation, which accredits, so that means it assesses national human rights institutions to see the extent to which they meet the Paris Principle of Independence, amongst other things. And where they've identified that independence is weak or insufficient for a variety of reasons, those national institutions can then take that report and use it to advocate to their government. And in fact, governments don't like their national human rights institutions to be downgraded from A to B. So it's quite a powerful tool, and we've seen changes, for example, in Malaysia and in Norway as a result of just that advocacy.
And what about when the provisions of the state are adequate, but the independence is still being challenged?
Well, and I look around the world and I see national human rights institutions, their members and staff who are working in really difficult circumstances and very, are very brave and courageous where there's real conflict. I think of the Afghanistan Human Rights Commission. Think of the Maldives Commission, where when the commissioners reported for the Universal Periodic Review that the judiciary wasn't meeting independence, wasn't acting fully independently, the Supreme Court charged them with treason. In that instance, the family of national human rights institutions in the Asia-Pacific region and then around the world and the international community came to their support. There are many aspects of independence. Funding is one of them, and the expectation is that governments will fund national human rights institutions and then allow them to determine how to spend that funding. But there are situations where the governments give very little, and indeed, in the case of Afghanistan, for example, and Palestine, really their independence is protected by that, and international donors make up the difference, but that's the exception. Similarly, the Paris Principles and the accreditation process allow for very different structures, but those structures must each ensure independence of decision making.
So we've been talking about the independence provided through the state, but of course there's many aspects of independence that an NHRI can actually control, isn't there?
Yes, and I think really in the ways that an NHRI works is what will ultimately be the test of how independent it is. And at the New Zealand Commission, we found applying what we've called the human rights approach and doing that transparently and publicly and demonstrating through that approach that we took account not just of a single set of human rights issues or players, but looked right across the board in any situation, that built trust in us that we were really independent, looking comprehensively, and we would take account of everybody affected by a human rights situation.
That's right, and I think the engagement also helped to establish relationships and build trust with different stakeholders, so that when and if we did actually criticise them, we were sometimes less attacked than we would have been otherwise.
Yes, but again, I think there were ways of working. I don't think we ever criticised anybody or any organisation without first giving them a chance to comment on what we were going to say. And in fact, in our case, the legislation required us to do that. It was a good requirement to have, because what we sometimes found was that there was information we didn't know when we took our original position. And by engaging with those that we wanted to question, we were able to get the full picture.
That's right, that's right. And I think another element that can really reinforce independence and support it is having a diverse staff body. So just like commissioners are meant to reflect all sectors of society, what we really worked on in New Zealand was having a staff body that also was diverse. And that helped us with applying the human rights approach because we were connected and had the relationships to access all parties who had an interest in the issue. And it also meant we could design programs that were reaching and accessible to those communities. And I think that helped reinforce our independence as well. And I think that can be really challenging personally for people. It can be difficult for their communities to understand the role that they have to play, and sometimes they have to step out and be more objective than they might have been outside of the Commission. And I think one thing that certainly staff have told me they found really useful was when they were working in that situation, being provided with confidential professional supervision to help them work through the issues was very, very helpful to keep them safe in the environment they were working in. I also think it helps to agree behaviours that promote independence and agree those together as a commission. And as you know, at NZHRC we developed a code of conduct which set those out, and we identified 9 particular areas of behaviour that could be challenging to independence, and put lots of detail below that. But much more importantly was we worked those through together, so we had a shared understanding of what they were and how to act, and then put in place systems and processes behind them that made sure that we followed those behaviours.
Another demonstration of independence is in relation to the organisations and the communities with which the Commission engages. Everybody expects the Human Rights Commission to engage with NGOs that promote human rights, whether those of children or women or in relation to housing or whatever. But what's equally important is to engage with those communities and organisations that might at first sight seem to be opposed to some aspects of human rights. And a very strong example of that in our case was an organisation that promoted victims' rights, but they did so by advocating that perpetrators or criminals' rights should be lessened, and made sure everyone was aware of the code of conduct.
Absolutely.
Sufficiently familiar with it to know how to apply it to them.
And we had training programs and different processes that people could use to access it.
And I think that's really important because that's what people often forget, the assumption that staff will know and understand things.
Absolutely.
And rather than supporting them to develop that knowledge and understanding. The important thing about independence is to remember that there's always going to be challenges to it. And so it's something that the institution as a whole has to be consciously thinking about and know how to respond, know how to demonstrate independence, and then people come to accept that even if they don't agree with you, that you're working from a principled basis of human rights standards and not just from personal bias.